Welcome to the On Being Human podcast, where we believe transforming ourselves can positively transform society. Your host, Brandy Fleck, has the honor of exploring the human condition with real people who bravely share their personal stories of adversity, healing, joy, and more. If you're seeking empowerment, strength, and inspiration, listen in to engage and explore tough topics that help us humanize one another, understand ourselves better, spread love, and connect.
Welcome back to another soul-exposing exploration of what it means to be human. You're listening to episode 34, the season 1 finale, guys. This is a big deal. So last week, Ryan Sauls and I opened up about our relationship. We answered listener questions in that episode. This week, we have 3 veterans here to tell you what it's like being a veteran. And they're going to talk a little bit about an Irreverent Warriors Silkies hike that's coming up in Nashville in August. So you'll want to get all the details of that. Now, there are 3 of them. They came for an in-person interview, which is a little different than how we do most of our interviews. So we get a little rowdy, we get a little personal, and you're going to hear us banging on the table, drinking drinks, but I really want you to feel like you're there with us. Also, this is a really great time to listen to this episode because, as you know, 4th of July is just a couple of days away where we celebrate our freedom. And when you hear some of these stories, it'll help you learn about how our freedom isn't really free, and it'll help us learn about some of the sacrifices that lots of ladies and gentlemen make for us as a society and as a country. So it's a lot to think about. We explore topics such as PTSD, alcoholism, reintegration back into society, and the transition between a very structured military life back to a civilian life, and all the issues that come with that, such as the suicide statistics and the depression, and just a host of issues that organizations like Irreverent Warriors and the Oath Vet Project really try to tackle and help each other with. So the gentlemen that we have start speaking in the order of Andrew Farrer, and then Jarod Couch, and then Andy Littlefield. So here are their bios in that order. Andrew Farrer is a Nashville native, but he was raised in New Hampshire. He went to boarding school and college in Florida. He worked at Sherwin-Williams after college until enlisting into the Marine Corps from 2004 to 2008. He was an infantry machine gunner with the 3/8 India Company. Now, forgive me if I don't pronounce these things right. I am definitely a civilian, but I am definitely trying my best and want to be respectful here. He was in the Fallujah 2005 Battle of Ramadi, 2006, and the 22nd MEU. He was a Purple Heart recipient in 2006, and he's been a chef for 10 years. He is 100% dealing with PTSD, that is post-traumatic stress syndrome, and he's a recovering alcoholic with 10 months sober. His first Irreverent Warriors Silkies hike was in Savannah, Georgia in 2018. He is a life member of the VFW number 1291, and he's a newly elected adjutant. He's Senior Vice Commandant MCL number 1158 in Murfreesboro. He's the Irreverent Warriors Silky Hike Nashville Coordinator. And on a personal note, he lost his dad, who was a Navy veteran, to a suicide in boot camp. He lost 25 friends in deployment. He lost a child in 2006 and a brother in 2014. He loves helping veterans and is a huge supporter of Irreverent Warriors. Thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on the show, and congratulations on your amazing accomplishments. Next, we have Jarod Couch. He was born and raised in Texas. He joined the Marines right out of high school, went into the reserves with aspirations of running college cross country and track. He served from 2008 to 2016 as an amphibious assault vehicle mechanic 2141 with OMC Waco, Texas, and then Fourth Tracks in Galveston, Texas. After getting out in 2016, he continued his career in HVAC controls and building automation, which brought him to Nashville, Tennessee in February of 2019. So welcome, Jarod, and thank you so much for coming on the show. We should mention that Jarod is highly involved with the Oath Vet Project, which will be in the show notes. And all of the awesome things that they mention in this episode today will also be in the show notes, including information for that Silkies hike. And then last but certainly not least, we have Andy Littlefield. After graduating high school in 2002, he left home for Marine Corps recruit training in Parris Island, South Carolina. After earning the title of Marine, he was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California. He served on 2 deployments, the first from 2003 to 2004 with the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit in support of 1st Battalion, 1st Marine Regiment. On this deployment, he traveled around the Western Pacific on the USS Ogden and had the amazing opportunity to see 6 different countries in 8 months. His second deployment wasn't as glamorous. He was deployed to Ramadi, Iraq for 9 months in 2005, this time supporting 1st Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment. This is where he would get his first taste of combat, but thankfully his entire platoon came home and was able to hug their loved ones. After leaving the Corps in June of 2006, he started a career in the offshore drilling industry. His familiarity with being away for extended periods and working in harsh environments really worked to his favor to help make a great living for his family in that field. In 2016, his family and Andy made the decision to move back to Tennessee, and he enrolled at Middle Tennessee State University. And with the help of credits he earned while in the Corps, he graduated with his BS in Criminal Justice and Management in 2018. Congratulations, Andy. That's awesome. That is awesome. So his education helped him find work that allowed him to pursue his true passion of helping his brothers and sisters in arms through the Marine Corps League, of which he currently serves as Commandant of the Stones River Detachment in Rutherford County, Irreverent Warriors, and other worthy veteran causes. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Andy. All 3 of you have some amazing stories, and let's just dive in. Hello, everybody. I am here today with Andrew Farrer, Jarod Couch, and Andy Littlefield, 3 veterans who really care about supporting fellow veterans in many ways, including integrating soldiers back into civilian life, providing resources to deal with the many issues veterans face, and organizing activities for the veteran community. They care about supporting fellow veterans so much, they have created organizations and community initiatives to do just that, all of which we'll talk about today. So guys, it's so good to have you here. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for asking.
Great. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So I guess we'll start with you, Andrew, and go around the group. But I would love to know, what did each of you do in the military? How long did you serve? And what are the high-level details of your careers?
I served from 2004 to 2008 with 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines, India Company. I was a machine gunner, 3 deployments, 4 years. So Fallujah, 2005, Ramadi, 2006. And the 22nd MEU. It was just a lot of deployments. Not too much time back at home.
Okay.
I've received the Purple Heart for getting wounded in 2006. Saw 14 countries in 7 months on the 22nd MEU. I don't know. I had a really good experience. It was good with my comrades, but it was also, we lost a lot of people too. We lost like 27 guys in 4 years. And it was tough for a while, especially when I got out. I was a mess when I got out.
Gotcha. Okay. What about you, Jarod?
Well, I was in the Marine Corps from 2008 to 2014. I was an AAV mechanic, that's an amphibious assault vehicle mechanic. So basically, we don't like to use this term, but a tank that goes in water. So as far as that goes, I was in the reserves for the whole time. I didn't get any deployment time, but I got to see a lot of things. Being back home, I got to see a lot of people coming back and how they transitioned and stuff like that. And that's what got me interested in doing a lot of nonprofit stuff, and that's kind of how we're starting this conversation today. So
Awesome. Okay, and you, Andy?
Well, I'm in the Marine Corps from 2002 to 2006. I was a combat engineer, so layman terms, I was construction, destruction. We built fortified structures, and we also built bombs, essentially. Blew a lot of stuff up. Went on 2 deployments. One was on the 13th MEU, which is essentially the Marines are stationed on naval vessels as they float around the oceans. And then my second deployment was to Al Ramadi, Iraq. I actually left Al Ramadi, Iraq right about the time that Chris Kyle got there. So that's always kind of a special thing for me.
SEAL Team 3.
Yeah.
He was there when I was there.
And after the Corps, I went into about a 10-year career in the oil field, and that's a really easy transition for somebody in the military, because especially going offshore, you're away from your family. The transition is easy because you're going to be away from your family a lot in the oil field, just like you are in the military, and plus the money's not too bad. But since then, came back home to Tennessee here, got my degree, and now just trying to make a new career out of it, because there's not a whole oil field up here in Tennessee. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's start with you and go back the other way. What does service mean to you?
Well, I think that definition may have changed over the years. Back when knew me, Brandy, service was about serving my country and doing what I thought was needed to be done as far as protecting the homeland and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of a naive teenager generic answer. Now it's different, where it's not so much serving my country or protecting the homeland or anything like that. It's serving my fellow brother, my brothers in arms, my sisters in arms, and doing whatever I can to help them along in any way we can. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but that's why I got involved in the Marine Corps League and why we got involved in this Irreverent Warriors Silkie hike, because nothing else, just being there, just to talk to, being an ear for somebody to bend when they need it, that goes a long way.
Okay. And what about you, Jarod?
I would say a lot of the same, but I think I come at it from a different angle. And what I mean by that is, in high school, I knew I was going to serve. My brother was in the Marines. I saw him deploy multiple times, and right after 9/11. I knew kind of what was going on, but I didn't know exactly. I was still young. And with that being said, I always knew I wanted to be a Marine. I'd seen how his life has transitioned from him rebelling and getting in trouble in high school to all of a sudden people looked at him and he was an honorable man. That always stuck out with me. So I saw him serving his country, and people were always looking at this as a very honorable thing, and I knew I wanted to be a part of that. So when I went in, some of that had changed. That I didn't know, because I got into the reserves, and I didn't know how I was doing that by not deploying. When I got out, I realized I felt like I hadn't fulfilled my mission, and that's why I do a lot of the stuff that we do today. So that leads off onto what Andy was just saying about moving into a different not branch of service, but just it's continuation of service. It's a heart and mind mentality about giving back to your community, to your country, and all of that. So
Gotcha. Yeah. And Andrew, what about you?
Well, I was actually 26 when I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I'd already gone to college. I got my BA. I actually was in Naples, Florida, and I was working for Sherwin-Williams. And when 9/11 happened, I heard on the radio. I was mixing paint in the back, and I was assistant manager at the time. And all I wanted to do, I was like, I heard this. I wanted to go down to the recruiting office. Well, my parents, they didn't want me to go at that time. So, actually, I wasn't 26. I was 23 at the time. And I waited 3 years, and I enlisted at 26. I was one of the oldest guys in boot camp. And I just wanted to serve my country before I was 30. And I thought my dad was a lieutenant commander in the Navy. My uncle was he was a lieutenant in the Army, Vietnam. And so, and I don't know, a lot of people in my family through Ancestry.com I found have served, and I wanted to do the same thing. And I agree with both of these two wonderful gentlemen that we do a lot of service. I mean, we all belong to the Marine Corps League, all three of us, to the same post.
Okay.
We all belong to the VFW. Some of us are officers, some not. It's just we're trying to give back to our fellow brothers and sisters in arms.
Well,
And Irreverent Warriors is also it's great. I love Irreverent Warriors. I just came back from a Silkies hike in Cincinnati. There was a lot of love bringing veterans together. So I'm all about the love. I like, having his six, and knowing that those guys have mine too.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to go off script a little bit and say, can you tell us, since Irreverent Warriors has come up, can you tell us a little bit about what it is and what you guys do there?
Since Jarod is the senior, because he's a coordinator, Waco, Texas, he's been to 1,000 hikes. He can.
That's
he
a
can,
little bitty, but
Hey.
Yeah.
He can give us a 411 on Irreverent Warriors.
Okay.
So, Irreverent Warriors is a great nonprofit. It was started in 2015 by Donnie O'Malley, who was a captain in the Marine Corps of a grunt unit. Donnie O'Malley started it as, it wasn't originally a nonprofit, it was a unit hike. Basically, he had lost a lot of brothers, and he was tired of seeing that, so he wanted to get them all together. So, in the Marine Corps, we do a lot of hikes. That's just something that we're known for. So he got all his brothers together and said, hey, let's go hike in our Silkies, through town. Let's have a good time. So that's what they did. And through that, they came together and they were a lot closer in the days coming.
So wait, by Silkies, do you mean like boxers?
So when we say Silkies,
Almost.
Very close.
So for those who don't know, Silkies are the running shorts in the military. Not preferably, mainly in the Marine Corps. Sorry.
Okay.
But they're silky, or they're silk grain shorts. They're very short.
Very short.
And
Okay.
at these silky hikes,
They're short enough to where they have an inside liner. So
That's their
Exactly.
underwear.
Okay.
So
They
that-
have their own underwear.
So that if you wear them out in public, you don't get arrested.
Good.
Exactly.
Okay.
But long story short, Donnie did this and it got viral. There was a lot of attention on it right off the bat. Then there was a couple hikes that were kind of thrown together in different cities, and they were very successful. They kept on growing. To date, there's about 40 cities that are doing this. They're all run by volunteers like Andrew and I. Basically, the whole mission of, and Andy over here.
I'm helping too.
Sorry there. But the whole mission of Irreverent Warriors is to reduce the effects of PTSD and eliminate veteran suicide. The way they're doing it is humor and camaraderie by getting veterans together and making them laugh and enjoy. The whole thing about it is that Friday before a hike, they could have 1,000 things going on that nobody knows about. Saturday, when they get around 150 people that know exactly their mentality and make them laugh and open up, they're in a whole different mentality, in a whole different world. Now they have 150 other people that they can go reach out to and network with and talk to about these issues. That's exactly what the Irreverent Warriors is about, is bringing veterans together.
And a big part of that humor is kind of this, wearing the Silkies, because you can't not have a good time wearing something as ridiculous as those. It's like when you dress up funny to go to a party or something like that. And I guess it makes it even more so because this is something we used to wear on the daily. We every time we'd go PT, we'd wear them because they were comfortable and they're lightweight, but they look horrendous. And for us to be walking through downtown Nashville, all of us wearing these, Daisy Dukes like shorts is just
Daisy Dukes of freedom.
And just our, Irreverent Warriors. I mean, the definition is showing a lack of respect for people or things that are generally taken seriously. And that's what we do. I mean, in the most horrendous situations, us Marines and us veterans, we can find humor in anything. And something that probably most people would be like, oh, I can't believe he said that. Mm-hmm. That's how we cope with anything, is through laughter and making fun of something. And I don't know, it's just, it works for us. It doesn't transition well over to the civilians too much, but
I would say there's definitely a humor base that in the veteran community that doesn't correspond to our civilian counterparts, and that's the biggest thing is when we try to communicate some of our mentality, some of our issues. Even if you haven't been on deployment, it's still hard to do because you've come from a different mindset. You've been reprogrammed. You've been retaught how to live life and how to think.
Gotcha.
And so when you get around a whole bunch of people that you can actually correspond with and have a meaningful conversation and open up, it changes your life instantly.
Can you go into a little bit more detail about the reprogramming? Like, how did you change?
Can I
go ahead?
Can I take that? So, I liken it. I've been asked this before, and I like to liken it to the process we all go through in high school when we're trying to discover ourselves and who we are. I know for me, between junior high and high school, I went through from Metallica. By the time we met, I was, wearing cowboy hats and rolling up my sleeve from white t-shirts and all that. So there's a big transition that everybody ends up going through in their adolescence, trying to discover what they like and all that. But when you go into the military, the purpose of boot camp, and a little bit further into once you get into the fleet, is to, like you said, reprogram you in a way where Marine Corps boot camp, especially, they do a really great job at this. The first month and a half is just breaking you down mentally and physically, so that once you get to that breaking point, they can start to build you back in a way that matches the virtues and the goals of the Marine Corps or whatever branch you're in. And so then you come out at least a slightly different person. I can't tell you how many people, when I came back from boot camp, said I was acting completely different. I was standing up straighter. I was walking more in line. I kept people. If I was going on a date, the date was always on my right side and that kind of stuff. That
you're making your bed. you had children's.
No, I wasn't, because I didn't have a bed in my house anymore. But if I did, I would have probably.
So I guess would you say it's more structure or just a?
Yeah, it's a lot more structure.
To orders. We learn how to. Sorry, I didn't.
No, go ahead.
They break us down, build us up to what they want us to be, and we are, as I was infantry, so adhering to orders is very, very important, especially in a combat situation when you are to the left and to your right are your brothers, and you have their backs and they have yours. So you better listen to your squad leader or your platoon sergeant or your platoon commander, because if not, something bad is going to happen, and you need to be ready for that. And they try and, that's what I got out of boot camp and SOI, School of Infantry. They throw curveballs at you all the time and see if you can, you're disassembling and assembling a 240 Gulf, and they're yelling and screaming at your ear while you're doing it and trying to do it in under 2 minutes.
And just so your audience know, a 240 Gulf is a machine gun.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Kind of lead off on that.
No, go ahead.
Kind of two-part real quick, but basically what you're saying, he's talking about the fog of war. They prepare you for the fog of war. And we talk about it a lot in the Marine Corps, but the fog of war is when nothing is right. Everything is FUBAR. It's just nothing is as planned. Basically, you have to know how to have what is the term I'm looking for? Obedience to orders. Immediate obedience to orders. Yeah. So basically, going back to the adherence. So as soon as you hear something, you're automatically in action. You're already snapping.
Were you thinking about muscle memory?
That too, yeah.
That too,
There we go.
Well, and to further expand that, once we get out, we still have that transition period of trying to rediscover who we are. Especially if we go back to our home state and be around our family again. Everybody's kind of expecting us to be the same kind of person we were 4 years ago, or 8 years ago, however long our enlistment or commission was, and that's just not the case. And a lot of times we're so stubborn in ourselves that we think we're the same person too, and so we have that struggle where we're kind of back in high school again, where we're trying to rediscover who we are again, and with
sorry, there's the cat.
without us kind of giving into that we're not the same person, it's hard for us as veterans to understand that, we're not gonna do the same things the same way anymore. We've changed. Hopefully we've changed for the better, but in some cases we haven't changed for the better. We changed for the worse, but we still need to understand and recognize that there is that change at least. But it's increasingly hard, I think, for a lot of us to recognize that. Matter of fact, I think for me it's probably taken me a good 10 years to recognize that, and even still, on some level, I'm still trying to recognize how much I've changed from the core.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in cognitive behavioral therapy. I've done EMDR. I've done CBT. It's a hard process, and this is the first time that I've gotten all that, and it worked a little bit. But the program I'm in now, I mean, with Vet Support Group and Seeking Safety, and having other veterans to lean on,
mm-hmm.
having a great support system is the number one thing that we need to have. And the best person for us vets to lean on are other veterans, and that's why Irreverent Warriors is so great, because
I haven't been involved in Silkie as much as these guys, but every story I'm hearing from testimonies from people that have been on Silkie hikes is that they find that support group at the hike.
Okay.
They make that networking connection, and they're able to, you live like 20 minutes down the road. Yeah, brother. If you need anything, call me. No problem. And it's just a great. The civilian term would be networking. It's a great place for us to network with each other. But it's so much more important for us to know where there's somebody that we can count on. Which is why any of these veterans organizations, every veteran I come across, I always tell them, get involved with the VFW, get involved with the Marine Corps League, American Legion, Irreverent Warriors, get involved with something.
Or one of the big six, at least.
If nothing else, there's somebody there you can call on.
So would you say that when you get back and you're going through that transition, that you are coping with rediscovering yourself, but also, I guess, the things you've been through? So there's like this compounded amount of things, I guess, for lack of a better word,
Definitely.
that you have to deal with, I guess.
I think minimally, if you don't see any, as take for example, if somebody joins the military and they end up being admin or something like, but they don't see any action and they stay behind a desk. I think, if nothing else, coming out from the military, from that position, you're still going to have that anxiety, at least a little bit of anxiety, just because it's a transition, trying to rediscover yourself. But definitely, we compound on combat action. Yeah, I think PTSD is probably 90% going to happen.
Gotcha.
Well, I'll have a great example of that. As being in the reserves and not going in combat, I came back from boot camp and from MCT and from my job school. And so for a year and a half of my life, every moment of my day I was told what to do. I knew I had a plan of action for that. I was told what to wear. I was told, I knew what I was supposed to do for 24 hours out of the day, 7 days a week for that time period. And I came home, and that wasn't the case. And so I knew I was an adult and I could handle that, but I didn't want to. That wasn't what I had set out to do anymore. And so I knew that my purpose was a little bit clouded at that point. So for me, I didn't know how to deal with things because I started putting in requests to go back active because I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so for me, I got denied on those requests to be active. So at this point, I'm in a zone where I wanted to be in the Marine Corps. I kind of was in a transitional period. I didn't know what to do. Now I can't be fully part of the Marine Corps like I want to, and so I'm in this transitional period. And I feel like a lot of people, no matter where that transition happens, it really messes with your judgment because at that point, your brain isn't functioning right. You're wanting to do one thing and you can't do it. You're used to doing one thing. You're not doing that anymore. However it may be, you're in a transitional period. How you react to that is always going to be how your life is going to turn out. But with that being said, a lot of guys come out of depression from it. A lot of guys deal with social anxiety. There's just a whole slew of things that come out of it. But because of that, I mean, alcoholism, drug dependency, a lot of things happen because we're looking to fill a void in our life because we don't know what's happening anymore. We don't know how to feel right anymore because we've been told how to for however long that is, however long you were in the service.
Sure. Okay. So I heard you just list a host of issues that veterans are facing when they are transitioning back to civilian life. So I know that some of you, and you mentioned PTSD, Andy, Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to live with PTSD?
It's horrible. When I got out, okay, it all started. I was in boot camp in 2004 in June, and second month in, my father committed suicide. He was obviously, I told you, he was lieutenant commander in the Navy. So I went home for his funeral. They had taught us so well, that robot that built, breaking you down, building you up. My mom took me to a psychiatrist, and I was like, left hand on left knee, right hand on right knee, back straight, eyes front. And the psychiatrist was like, "What's wrong with your son?" And then I went back to boot camp, graduated after burying my father, going off on all these deployments, and I would push it all back in the back of my head. And as soon as I got out, I had time to think about it. And it drove me to drink a lot. I was on metrazapine and trazodone, citalopram. I mean, I was like a zombie. And I couldn't function. I would be living in my mom's guest bedroom for the entirety of the summer before I actually decided to go get help. And that was the first bout with AA. I've been through AA 5 times. This is my 5th time trying Alcoholics Anonymous. I just got in trouble 10 months ago after getting married with alcohol. I thought I had it licked, and I did not. And so I got in a lot of trouble. And it's, but I have a really good support system now, good sponsor, good friends. And I'm working on all that stuff that I pushed in the back of my mind. Like, my father dying. All my friends, my friends that are buried, there's like half of them buried in Arlington, and we go up, every once in a while and we cheers them, and I'm trying not to cry right now. So, it was tough. And then, while I was I was married and then got a divorce. My first child died in 2006 after we got back from Ramadi. And then, I had a lot of death from 2005 to 2015. My brother passed away from colon cancer. So it was a lot of stuff on my plate, and I was trying to deal with it. And the only way I could do anything that I knew how to do was to go to the bar and drink. I was good at that. I did it in college. I did it in the Marine Corps. We did it, we didn't have that much time to drink, but, I got in trouble for drinking in Iraq in 2005. My cousin sent me a Listerine bottle full of Jack Daniels. Me and some buddies, we did it, but I got caught. The lieutenant colonel, the battalion commander, and his battalion sergeant major gave us a ride to the chow hall after we had been drinking. They didn't smell anything on us, but I chose to go to where the CEB guys and the legal admin guys were. Every one of them had a bottle, and I decided, you know what? I'm gonna have fun. I went to the MWR where we make phone calls and do the internet and MySpace back in the day when MySpace was awesome and it was way better than Facebook.
Totally. Totally.
And I got off the phone with my ex-wife, and the next thing I knew, I woke up with my M16 in between my legs on a Jersey barrier, laid back like this, and I come to, and the only thing I see are these 2 gold oak leaves. And I was like, holy shit. Because that is a major.
Okay.
He was the battalion anesthesiologist. And so he's like, you all right, Marine? I'm like, yeah, I'm just dehydrated, sir. And they took me to Charlie Med, in Fallujah, at Camp Fallujah. And, and then the truth came out, and then I was on every single working party for the next, 5.5 months.
Gotcha.
I cleaned porta shitters, you name it, I did it.
Okay.
So I think at this point, is it okay for us to cuss?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was trying to hold back.
We as Marines cuss a lot.
No,
It's okay.
and then and then we went to Ramadi in 2006, and it was a better deployment. I was more locked on. I was 182 pounds. I was ready to go. I know, but by the time we got out, I mean, I had nothing left. My wife and I got divorced. I had lost a child. I had to move back to Savannah with my mom, and I drank from 2008 to 2010. I was a horrible alcoholic. I remember one time. I'm sorry, I'm taking all this time, guys, but
That's okay.
I remember one time one of my fellow Marines, he came up from Florida to visit me, and we got hammered. We went down to River Street. We got hammered. Came back to my mom's place, and I started wrecking stuff. I destroyed my computer. We basically just left the house and got a Best Western hotel room for 3 days and just partied like crazy. And then I had to, sober up and
come to reality.
And then I had to come to reality, which, that was bad. I had to come back and say sorry to my mom, and it's been a rough go. This alcoholism is a bad thing, but I don't have it licked, and I don't think I'll ever have it licked. But I go to meetings. I have a sponsor. I've worked the steps. It's a good program. It works if you work it.
Gotcha.
And
is that a result? Do you think the alcoholism is related to the PTSD?
see, I've been trying to figure this out. What came first, the alcoholism or the PTSD? Chicken the egg kind of thing?
Yeah.
I will definitely say the Marine Corps encourages drinking.
It does.
Okay.
That's how we resolve our problems. They don't teach you how. A minute ago he was talking. They don't teach you suppress everything. They don't teach you how to manage with problems, but they teach you how to drink.
Yeah.
So something happens, you end up at a bar.
No offense to the Marine Corps.
I've got a really good story along that lines because I went to the VA one time and I had a former Navy corpsman who was a PN, NP rather, nurse practitioner, which is almost a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I told her, look, I hate these questionnaires that you all give us. Because it's always asking about how many cigarettes you smoke a day, how many beers, how many drinks do you have a day, and I go, because every time I fill it out and I'm honest about it, I get a dirty look. And because even today, to this point, my number's probably around at 8 to 10 beers a night, every night, and on weekends even more because I start earlier. You know, you show up to work earlier, you get more pay. I honestly don't think that it hampers my ability to wake up in the morning and go to work and function and all that. So some may call me a functional alcoholic. I don't know, but you know, when talking to this nurse practitioner, I was like, these questionnaires are bullshit. And she goes, look, I was attached to the Marines when I was in, and I grew up in El Paso, Texas. So I've been drinking since I was 15 because I just jumped the border and go to Mexico. I drink just as much as you do. I get it. But put the damn answers down so I can have the form back. So it was, ever since then, I've always been kind of, I think it's just normal. It may not be a good thing, but it's just a normal thing for veterans to be heavier drinkers than most everyday people. Civilians.
Gotcha.
I knew people when I was in that would literally start a Friday night out with the 30-pack. I mean, that was before they went out to the bars. I mean, and they would function. They would go out to the bar. They wouldn't be stumbling. They'd walk in the door. The bouncer would look them in the eyes, and they're seeing straight, you know?
Sure.
And that was the beginning of their night, you know? And so when we transition, it's like you got a whole new world with this alcoholism. It's like, what do you do now? Well, I know how to drink.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is interesting.
That got me in a lot of
I think
trouble.
we're scaring Brandy a little bit.
No.
Did you guys, like when you got a 96, if you were lucky enough to, a 96 is 96 hours away from being on duty.
It's a 4-day off.
Yeah.
It's a 4-day weekend.
Did your platoon sergeant or your gunny or whoever it was, did they say, you know, we used to have a gunny that said, he gave one liberal speech. I have a shovel, bag of lye, and a shotgun in the back of my trunk. If you guys have any problems, give us a call. He was crazy when he said that.
We always got the safe sex talk.
Oh yeah. Don't
Rustle the love muscle and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
don't add to the population.
Yeah.
Don't
Just subtract from the population.
subtract the population.
Yeah.
And if you're in jail, what is it? Get dominance or something like that.
Okay, establish dominance.
Establish dominance. Yeah, establish dominance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, and there's that humor again.
Yeah, well, see, that a civilian wouldn't get that, but we think that's hilarious.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm like, I don't know how to transition into another question after that. Well, so let's get just a little bit serious and talk about what it's like recovering and healing from these issues for veterans.
Okay. I'll talk about how we'll go back to Irreverent Warriors and how that's kind of affected my life. So I told you there for a while in the reserves. I didn't really know like what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be back in active duty. I wanted to be. I see all my buddies deploying. I don't get those opportunities. So I was really kind of at a loss in my life. I wasn't happy. The things that I wanted to do, I couldn't. And then at the same time, I also see buddies not coming back. And so I see that, and I don't know how to deal with that. And so I didn't realize it until probably a year or two ago. And I don't like to use this term at all, but I had a lawyer that I talked to with some legal issues, and she was like, "Have you ever heard of survivor's guilt?" I was like, "Survivor's guilt? What are you talking about?" She was like, "Survivor's guilt PTSD. It's a very serious thing." She was like, "Most people don't want to claim it, but you might want to look into it." She was like, "It'll probably explain a lot of stuff in your life." She was like, "It's for what it is someone who's seen something or had people in a branch or something where they had all their buddies go off and they didn't get to join them and their buddies didn't make it back." Mm-hmm. And I thought about that for a long time. And I was like, you know what? I've dealt with depression. I've dealt with the alcoholism. I've dealt with, coping with things in just ways that should never happen. And so when I look at that, to kind of transition on the recovery, the way I did when I got out of when I got out of the Marine Corps in 2014, I really was still struggling with a career and stuff like that. I was introduced to Irreverent Warriors, and at that point, I was very depressed. I was in and out of relationships. I was really hard trying to find a relationship. I was trying to force myself into a relationship. That was kind of like when I was in a relationship, I was happy. And then when 2 months later, when we'd break up, it was world crushing. That was my life for probably a couple of years. And I had a really good buddy of mine, Jacob Romero, introduced me to Irreverent Warriors. That hike was the first time that I knew true happiness in over 2 years. At that point in my life, there was nothing that really could make me happy. When I was able to just let loose and not worry about a thing, because I was with my brothers and my sisters, all of a sudden the world just kind of lifted off my shoulder, and I knew I was at home. And so I got involved with the organization because I realized it's all over the nation, and we can make more of an impact. And basically I can enjoy that. Even I go to vacation at hikes. I find where hikes are across the nation. I say, hey, I'm going to go take a week off. I want to go see Oceanside or, DC or, it's been a great experience. But the moment I joined Irreverent Warriors and started doing these hikes, I noticed an uptick in my life. For the first time ever, I had a passion to want to go to work. For the first time ever, I didn't have to have that extra drink. For the first time ever, I didn't worry, if that girl didn't like me. For the first time, I was just able to enjoy life and smile a little bit more because I had all these buddies who I know were trying to do the same thing in their life, and I could call them at any moment in time. And that was a positive thing for me. So that's kind of how I've transitioned. And I know it's been a very positive impact for a lot of people around the nation.
Well, that's really cool. And so it sounds like the healing process started when you found your community. And
exactly. The network.
I think a lot of times it's odd when you think about the cause of our PTSD is also the solution of our PTSD, where just getting back into the fold, obviously not living the lifestyle anymore, but getting back into the fold with our brothers and sisters, that does so much for us. And that's how
it's the camaraderie. I mean, that's what I miss the most out of the Marine Corps. Do I want to go back? Yeah, I do, but I want to go back to see my boys. I don't want to get yelled at. I don't want to have to salute anyone anymore. I just want to see them. I mean, they were, being in an infantry unit and being a Marine. I mean, Jared's my brother. But Andy's my brother.
But even with that, if we, I'm sure everyone at this table, all three of us at least, right, have had the thought about actually putting the uniform back on and going back in there. Right? But why does that thought come up? Not because we know we can protect our brothers over there. We know we have the knowledge and we have the skill to do what needs to be done to make sure at least one more comes back. And that's where the camaraderie comes from.
And that's the saddest thing is the fact that we have to transition because more veterans are homeless and more veterans are committing suicide than are dying on the front lines right now. And that's a sad statistic.
Yeah.
And that's the reality is we have to be as much vigilant here because that buddy that we didn't call yesterday, well, he might have been dealing with something we didn't know about. That buddy might be thinking about putting a rifle or a pistol up against his head, and then that's a very sad reality of the world that we live in right now. And there's a lot of quick solutions to a temporary problem, and for the people that are still back here, it's not a quick solution. I mean,
and to touch on the statistics, everybody's heard the term 22 a day. And if you're really looking at that number, it's a little inaccurate. My personal belief that it's probably closer. It's probably up into the 30s a day, but there's a lot of variables in place where we can't necessarily give a really accurate number. But the next highest demographic for suicide is teenage girls, and they're about 15 a day.
Okay.
So we're easily at least getting close to doubling that demographic as far as suicides every day.
Gotcha.
Just to touch on the statistic, that was done by the VA, I want to say in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. The reason why it's a skewed statistic is because it didn't include many of your larger states like California or Texas that hold a vast majority, well, not a vast majority, but a large percentage of veterans. I know when I was they joke all the time in the Marines, you can look down a line and see 20 Marines, that are from Texas. And, I mean, there's a lot of Texas Marines. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about that, when they're enlisting that many people in the service, they're going to be a majority of, of those numbers. Gotcha. If you're not including them, that's a very skewed statistic there.
Gotcha. Okay, we are definitely going to get into more details about the hike and some resources available for veterans facing these issues. But real quick, before we dive into those details, I want to ask you, Andy, do you have stories to share that from your time in the service that you think would, people would want to hear or that you just want to talk about?
The one story that I try to share every Memorial Day, my time in service and my time in Iraq was more fortunate than most. My entire platoon came back, at least in the condition that they left in. We had some deaths in the company that we were in the battalion that we were attached to, but my platoon, being that we were combat engineers, we were attached to an infantry battalion. So within my platoon, which the ones I was closest with, obviously, we all came back. But there was this one night, I have a buddy of mine who, his name's Jason Eklund. I don't think he's too much online, so he probably won't hear this, so I won't embarrass him. But we met each other at our MRS training school and went from there into the fleet, and we went on our first deployment together, which was on the Navy ship, and then our second deployment was in our Romania, Iraq. And I knew his wife, lovely lady. I was there at least a couple of days after the birth of his first son, and ever since then we've kept in touch. He now lives in Alaska, with plans of possibly moving back down here in a couple of years, but. We were on the patrol at night, and for whatever reason, the highest rank we had with us was a sergeant. Anybody above was still back at the base. And I was in the second vehicle in a convoy, and we rode through the major intersection in town. And it was a four-way intersection with the alley coming into the intersection as well. So it's 5 lanes, 5 roads, essentially coming into the intersection all at once. Michigan.
Oh yeah, that's Chicago.
Yeah.
It was Ramadi, right?
Yeah, that's Ramadi. Yeah.
It wasn't Firecracker, was it?
That was up the road from Firecracker. Okay. There used to be a building there, but you wouldn't have seen it because I blew it up. Well, I say but our platoon blew it up.
That's why I love the CEB,
man. But this is the reason why we blew it up. When we came through the intersection, we got hit by an IED, an improvised explosive device. And months before we went on deployment, we spent an entire freaking weekend driving a convoy around Camp Pendleton, stopping every 20 minutes. Our gunny would say IED, we'd jump out, post security, do the whole 9 yards. We'd do it non-stop for 10 hours on Saturday. Did it again, another 10 hours on Sunday. Non-stop. It was just brutal. We hated it every second of it. We were cussing gunny out, cussing out the lieutenant. We just freaking hated it. Well, I was thankful for that weekend, that night. So we rode through the intersection, and the IED went off. And the first thing we do is we radio up and make sure. So every vehicle that can talk says they're okay. So the first vehicle radios up. we're okay. Second vehicle, my vehicle, we radio up, we're okay. Third vehicle, we're okay. Fourth vehicle, no answer. Go to the fifth vehicle, we get an answer. My buddy was in the fourth vehicle. So for a split second, I'm thinking about the longest split second of my life. I'm thinking about, what am I going to tell Leah, his wife? What about his, Daniel, his new son? It was just so, just an amazing wave of confusion and emotion coming over me for one split second. And then instantly, my training kicked in, the obedience to orders and all that I feel that when we were talking about before, it may put, some people may think that's a bad thing, but it's a good thing, because that immediate obedience to orders is what kicked in my training. I knew what I needed to do. The first gun truck's job was to radio up to higher and get back up. Me being the commander of the second vehicle, my job was post security. So we had 4 gun trucks. Like I said, we had 5 lanes. So I got all 4 gun trucks pointed down the major lanes, and then I got 2 people out on foot to post security down the 5th lane. And I walked the line and made sure everybody's right where they needed to be, because usually after IED there's an ambush. Luckily that wasn't the case on this night, but I put everybody in place, made sure everybody was being vigilant, checked with the first gun truck, make sure that we were getting somebody to come out, and only then did I even think to check on Jason. Well, that's not right. I thought about checking on Jason the entire freaking time, but I knew I couldn't. It just, one thing was more important than the other, because if I was too concerned with Jason, somebody else can go down. So once I made sure everything's good and my job was complete, at least for the time being, then I finally checked on Jason, and thank God the IED was designed for a Humvee, and he was in a semi-truck. So most of the blast went into the tire, and the 2 people, Jason and the driver, both walked away with just ringing their ears. And after we got back to base, I said, "Happy birthday, Jason," because it was his 22nd birthday that night.
Oh wow!
Oh my God!
Soon, a few weeks after that, there was another incident where we got hit by another IED coming back from doing a cache sweep south of town, and the Humvee that I was supposed to be in got hit, and I can't remember why, but the order got switched up, and that was actually 2 Humvees back. But Jason didn't know that, and Jason was ahead, and so he had his own scare that night, thinking the same things that went through my head the night that his truck got hit. Again, my experience in Iraq, if the worst stories I've got are 2 close calls, I had a really good time. I know many other people that didn't come back. A close friend of mine from when I was in Boy Scouts, Tyler Cates, he went to Iraq and never came back. I wanted to say there's somebody else I knew from high school that didn't come back from Iraq, but I can't remember the name. But Andrew here, I know he's got all kinds of names floating in his head. Jarod, we don't talk too much. I don't know if you have names or not, but
I do have a few. And honestly, some guys rattle off names, and they don't float right to the front of my head, but I know they're there. And I kind of leave those names be. Not out of disrespect or anything. It's just I kind of silently remember them and leave it at that. If you ask me my stories, though, they're always going to be a little bit lighter for the most part. So there's 2 terms that come to mind when I think of the Marine Corps. Welcome to the suck. And if if it ain't raining, we ain't training.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was just thinking about that today.
So,
damn.
This story includes both of those. So we were out on a field op, basically just some training. We went out to Fort Hood, and so we're on this Army base. Marines don't like being on an Army base, but that's all that was around. So so they always put us way out in the middle of nowhere when we're on an Army base because they don't want us around the soldiers. So as far as that goes, we're way out down this hill, and it's been raining from the moment we got out there. So much so that the whole weekend they're watching weather reports to see if we are even going to be able to make it up the road to get out of there. So we went on this patrol, and we were out on the patrol for like 3 hours. I'm like, man, this is getting really annoying because we're just going in circles right beside our FOB, which stands for Forward Operating Base. So we're 50 yards away from it. I can see it the whole time. And I'm just like, can I just go back over there and go sit down and eat? And, so I had when you're out in the field, chow is continuous, which means basically you carry your food with us, and you can just eat whenever you have a free moment. The reason why is because everybody's doing different things. Everybody's in a million different directions. So, I like to not carry a whole bunch of gear, didn't bring my chow. I'm hungry. I don't have any water on me. I was just light pack. So we're starting to come back towards the FOB, and it's right beside a little creek. And the creek is the banks are just starting to wash out because it's raining so bad. Well, lo and behold, there's a Humvee stuck in the creek right in front of us. So when there's gear unsecured, you secure it. So that means that we had to sit down in this creek and provide security until someone could tow it. So I keep on hearing talking around me, and I look through the trees, and 20 yards away was the FOB. And I could see the recovery vehicle, which was the vehicle that I was an NCO of, which meant I was the one normally giving the call to my guys who I could see to start that vehicle up. But my job right now is to provide security and instant obedience to orders. So I have to sit here and lay in this creek that's rising for about 2 hours until they came a whole 20 yards with this vehicle. So, I mean, it's just kind of a funny, it's laying in a creek, it's raining, water's coming up, every 10 feet, I have to move every 10 minutes, to get out of the water.
Yeah.
It's just part of the suck, welcome to the suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Man. That's funny.
You guys, I do want to thank you for your service, and I think it's really amazing that you're sharing your stories, and I really appreciate it. And I would love for you guys to give details about the hike now and tell people where it's at, how they can join, what to expect, all the good stuff.
Okay. Well, I guess that's me then.
Okay.
You're up.
The hike is August 10th, 2019, and the hike will. Now we have a meeting on Saturday, and we're gonna nail down some actual finite resolutions to this hike.
Okay.
But we have a route. It's 8.3 miles around the city. We have 3 refreshment stops and 3 water stops. Mission Barbecue will be catering the lunch at the Parthenon at Centennial Park. It's going to be a whole hell of a lot of fun. Bring your Silkies, bring your ruck, bring your boots, bring cash and credit card only. Enough, you put it in your Alice pack, put it in that little pocket that we have in our Silkies.
And then obviously your ID. You need your ID too if you're going to have the adult refreshments.
We're going to have safety vehicles. We're going to have EMTs. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of people already signed up. We want more. Cincinnati was 81.
So how do you do that?
So how do you sign up? You go onto Facebook and you type in Irreverent Warriors Silkies Hike Nashville. And you go on the event page, and about 3 lines down, you'll see tickets, and push that button. When you push tickets, it goes to Eventbrite, and that's how you register for the hike.
And all those links, you guys, will be in the show notes for this episode. So if you didn't get all that, just go to the webpage and you will find it and you'll have the instructions.
So you can go to Irreverent Warriors. If you go to Irreverent Warriors Facebook page or irreverentwarriors.com, it'll show the full hike listings. And then you can get to the events that way as well to register.
And we have a lot of events coming up. I mean, Nashville is our hike, but we also want to shout out to all the other hikes. Memphis, September 14th. We've got Ashland, Nebraska, July 13th. Savannah, Philadelphia, Boston, New York City. The list goes on. Virginia Beach. I mean, there are 5 in Texas. I mean, how great is that? You can go to Texas, Houston, San Antonio, Waco, Longview, and Clear Lake.
Yeah, I think so.
Clear Lake, Texas. I mean, Texas. That's where it's at, man. But we want you to come to Nashville because it's going to be fun. Nashville is a great city. I was born here, and it has grown. It has grown so much since those days.
Yeah, so, but if you're going to talk about hiking in Texas, it's all flat.
Come to Nashville.
Hold on.
We got the coordinator Waco who's going to pipe in right now.
No. But August 10th, what time are we hiking off at?
We step off at 09 in the morning.
Okay, so where do we meet up at?
We meet up at the VFW 1291.
At what time?
At 7:30.
That's a VFW on Lebanon Pike, too, by the way.
And that is 1907 Lebanon Pike in Nashville, Tennessee. We will be bussed over by Redneck Riviera to the Tennessee War Memorial Plaza. And we will start the hike taking a left on Martin Luther King, going 3 miles, hitting Centennial Park. And then we will we'll make a roundabout, Broadway, and then we'll go up Broadway till 17th Street, take a right, take a left on Division. We'll stop at Party Foul, Jackalope Brewery, and then continue on, take 8th Street, around the roundabout, back to Broadway. There we will stop at Downtown Sporting Club, which we already have. The second floor has already been confirmed for us. We will have the axe throwing. We will have a bar. We will have a restaurant. Now, if you're going to do the axe throwing, you have to be completely sober. They are very, very particular about this. Another stop will be Redneck Riviera. Again, we have the second floor confirmed. After Redneck Riviera, we will be going over the walking bridge, around Nissan Stadium, another water stop, and then come back to where we started. And from there, we go back to the VFW, where there will be a hog roasted, Heroes Vodka, Travis McVeigh, a fellow Marine and veteran-owned business, will be doing a signature cocktail at the post-hike party. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a blast. We're going to have a bounce. We're going to have a water slide. We're going to have a dunk tank. We've got the DAV is going to be there. AMVETS is going to be there. Marine Corps League will be there. Obviously, the VFW will be there. Veteran carvings will be there as well for flags to sell. Wooden flags with whatever emblem you want. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Air Force. I mean, we're all going to be there, and it's all good. It's going to be fun, and we're not going to have any incidents because you know why? We're going to police our own because we are veterans, and we can do it.
So if you're a vet out there, bring a friend.
Please. Sign up on Eventbrite.
And if you're a business owner that just wants to get their name out there, you know, we have sponsorship opportunities
Definitely.
for sure. So
nice job, Andy.
Get in touch with us through the Facebook page. Or if you know any one of us in person, get in touch with us that way. It doesn't matter.
Even if you're just a business looking to support some veterans, give us a shout because we can definitely get you some support out there and do some sponsorships.
I've got one more question for you guys, but it's the last question that I have to ask all of you, which is what does being human mean to you? But before we get into that, let's hear about the Oath Vet Project.
So the Oath Vet Project, that started a while back. I got away from Irreverent Warriors for a little bit, and I noticed a decline in my life. And when I came back, I said, if I'm going to come back into the veteran community, I want to do something where I have more of an impact than just attending and doing things like that. So I stepped up for Irreverent Warriors and helped host a couple of events and have done that type of thing. But then at the same time, I started the Oath Vet Project. And what that is, it's still, the reason why we call it a project is because it's an ever-moving collaboration. The whole thing about the Oath is we are trying to do the same thing as Irreverent Warriors, reduce the effects of PTSD and eliminate veteran suicide. But what we're trying to do that through is media. We're trying to do that through resources that we've gained. We're trying to do that through networking. There's a lot of things that we do. A lot of that is just working with different organizations and figuring out what they need to grow, what they need to be successful, and how they work with veterans. If there's younger VSOs that are trying to get veteran service organizations or businesses that are trying to get off the grounds, we can mentor them. That's one of the things that we've gained some skills from doing this for a few years to where we want to help people that have the same mentalities do that. We want to help to get them off the ground. We want to teach people how to be effectively a part of the community. We want to put them into places to succeed, whether that be helping them get into organizations that are already existing or start their own. So there's a lot of different things that we do. We're going to kind of transition here soon into a project that I'm pretty excited about. We're going to be doing some podcasts here soon. So the whole mentality with that is it's going to be an audio and video podcast. It'll be aired once a week, and we're going to bring on a different veteran organization leader or business every single week, and just talk about what they bring to the community, how they affect the community, how they are impacting change.
Very cool.
So.
Very cool. Well, guys, again, all of that will be in the show notes, so take a look over there. And now I can't wait to hear your answers on what does being human mean to you.
Well, Andy, you and I just talked about this last night.
Hey, I think I'd like to take the last turn.
Do you want to take the last one? Yeah. Do you want to go? Or do you want
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, I was a classical studies major in college.
Okay.
So I had to study Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, Nietzsche, Descartes, all the greats.
Yeah.
And, obviously, back in the Greek days, they would have a symposium, which in the Greek means drinking party.
Okay.
And they would all get together and they would drink and they would talk to you, what is it that's so great about being human? Is it love? Is it to have compassion? Is it to have virtue, the morals, the ethics? I mean, what is truly good to make you human? And I had to remind myself, I had to actually look up, what they actually want to see for the definition of to be human. And it's to have compassion for another human being. I mean, and I'm not going crazy right here, but it's how you treat other people. And it goes back to the golden rule. It goes back to Confucius. It goes back to, treating people the way you want to be treated. That makes us human. Humans are a social creature. We cannot be isolated or what's the other one? Isolated and alone. There's isolation and then there's
loneliness.
Loneliness. To do that, we are, like I said, a social being. We need interaction with other human beings. And trying to have compassion and having empathy for everybody that's what it means to be human. That's my take on being human.
Sure. I like it.
It's the humanities. Liberal arts. That's a liberal arts education from Rollins College, Winter Park, Florida. Thank you, Dr. Rubar.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I think. Being human is.
Awesome.
I would say a lot of the same. I like to watch a lot of documentaries, so I've seen it's funny watching animals compared to humans because they a lot of different ways, but in a lot of the same ways. Because like recently, I saw this viral video about a monkey doing CPR on another monkey to bring it back to life, and it worked. He actually performed this procedure that he had seen, and I was like, well, what makes him so much different from a human? He has empathy. He's trying to save another life, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of made me contemplate on that very question. What is it to be human? Well, empathy is a lot of it. Free will is a lot of it too, though, because with free will, we are able to do and think and comprehend in ways that no other being on this. I mean, he's not going to think the same way I am. You're not going to think the same way I am. Mm-hmm. That we're individual creatures that have the ability to think at the highest level, to perform at the highest level in whatever that is. And how we do that impacts the rest of this, the rest of this world. So the ability to impact change in a broader spectrum, to the ability to show empathy, but also impact change through that empathy.
Nice.
I like that too. Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's nice.
All right, get ready not to like this answer. So I'm going to agree and disagree on both of my colleagues. Because
colleagues.
I just like saying colleagues. It's not
makes them sound professional.
It sounds good to me.
So when I think about the basics of humanity, I like to turn to the child. When you observe a 4 or 5 year old child, you get to notice that they don't necessarily know what's good and bad. In a sense, and we all start off this way. We start off sociopathic in the sense that we don't know what it is to be good and what it is to be bad. And it's something that has to be taught to us. In the animal kingdom, they have instincts to rely on to know that, this is where I should, this is the kind of animal or food I need to eat, and this is the place where I need to do my business because I don't want to eat where I'm doing my business because that's not good. And if you even look at some other examples of the only other creature in the animal kingdom that is comparable to us in intelligence, some people would say maybe more intelligent than us, is a dolphin. And I've never personally experienced or seen it, thank God. But I understand that they're the only other animal that rapes and has sex for fun and masturbates on some occasions, apparently. So I think our ability to have intelligence can go astray really quickly. And so because of that, it's more important for us to exercise the empathy than anything else, because I think the empathy is what keeps us in line and keeps us from going batshit crazy on one another.
Nicely put.
I think we have the biggest impact for change.
Yeah. So we have the biggest impact for change for sure, but that change can either be good or it can be bad, and it's up to us to decide which way we want to go.
That's true.
Many of us veterans have already seen so much of the bad, and it gets to the point where either you make the conscious decision to turn away from the bad, or you go further and further down the rabbit hole on that side. And that's where the veteran suicide rate comes from. That's where we get people like Lee Harvey Oswald was a Marine. The gentleman, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but the gentleman that killed Chris Kyle, he was a Marine. If we don't focus on what's good in our lives and have empathy for other people, at least to the extent where we understand that we don't know what they're going through, it can be very dangerous for us to just go down the slippery slope and do something that will forever change our lives or somebody else's life.
Well, I like that answer too. I do, and I think it's really important to note, and it goes along with the theme of a lot of the other episodes on this show. So it perfectly wraps up the season, guys, because it is possible to choose the good path, right? I mean,
that's like cognitive behavioral therapy. You've got situation, you've got feelings, then you've got self-talk, then behavior, then consequence, and I'm just learning about this now. It's just, before I would make the bad choice, and it would be really easy to make that. It's very hard to go the other way to do the right thing. But I'm training my brain to do the right thing more now these days than back, when I was just getting out. Yeah. So it's trying to flip the switch.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, we've all tried it. Getting back, and like Andy said before, I mean, we will never be the same again after boot camp, after our 4 years, after our 8 years, after 17 years. Mm-hmm. We'll never be the same again. We'll never. My mom wants me to be the sweet boy that I was, and I was like, Mom, that kid's gone. He's been gone a long time. He's not coming back. But it's progress, not perfection.
There you go. All right. Well, you guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandy.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
You guys, that was an amazing experience. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I hope you enjoy your upcoming Independence Day in 2019. And while we're in the off season, look forward to a couple of bonuses that are coming out. We have an uncut version of episode 33 that involves a proposal, so you guys want to stick around to hear that. Plus, we'll be doing some behind the scenes episodes and things of that nature. As usual, check back at the website at onbeinghumanpodcast.com. You can sign up to join in this conversation with me there, and come back in the fall for season 2 that's already in the works. Thank you, listeners, for your support, and love to you all.